What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you. So we are kicking off May with a long-awaited release here. We are going to go over the newest offering from Solstice with their new album, Cast the Die. This comes out on the 7th of May on Emancipation Productions, that's with the Z. This band formed in 1990 in Miami, Florida, and this was actually one of the bands where Rob Barrett of Cannibal Corpse and Malevolent Creation fame got his start. Now, along with Rob, it was started by Dennis Munez on guitars and Alex Marquez on drums. And after the release of their first album, both Rob and Alex left and joined Malevolent Creation. And then Rob ended up joining Cannibal Corpse in 1993. And, well, he's been there pretty much ever since, off and on. He left for a little bit. Now, this band has had a lot of reunions and breakups. In fact, this is their first full length in 12 years. And this is also the first time with their new frontman and guitarist, Ryan Taylor, who is also the frontman for Malevolent Creation. And the reason I recognize him was namely because he is the former frontman and guitarist of Condition Critical, which was a pretty cool thrash metal band that was around for a little while. I think they might still be around, but I know he left in 2019. So, first time in a long time these guys came out with a new album, and I remembered hearing a single of theirs that was on a split with a band called Cyst, and I was like, oh wow, Solstice is back. Yeah. And this, honestly, might have been the first time I ever heard the term death thrash in terms of the two mixing together, and that debut album definitely brought it. This new album is a bit different. It kind of leans more on the thrashy side.
Thrash and hardcore.
Yeah. A lot of this is very thrash metal oriented, but the vocals reminded me a lot of hardcore. You said Jamie Josta.
I said Jamie Josta right off the bat.
I went with Scott Vogel from Terror.
Just the vocal cadences and even the inflection in the voice. It just, that's what it sounds like. And it doesn't deviate from that.
No, I mean, it will occasionally slow down, but when he's going like the rapid fire stuff, it screams hardcore or crossover thrash.
Yep.
And then you mix that with the fierce amounts of chuggy triplets all over this album, and this is just an angry banger that pretty much has one gear, and it is fast.
Yes.
The opening track, Altruist, and one of the lead-off singles, Ignite, both exhibit lots of thrash. In fact, Ignite's vocal cadences screamed pretty much like Tony from Iron Reagan and Municipal Waste. Like, it's rapid fire, it's fast, it's aggressive, and then behind it are palm-muted chugs that are just driving the song. And nice pummeling, pretty well mixed drums too. I really liked how the drums sounded on this.
I thought the snare trigger was a little high, but I'm gonna let it go.
Yeah, I mean, overall they sounded crisp.
Yeah, they were definitely the kind of pummel that's needed in thrash music. Like, even though the vibe of the album may have been more hardcore than thrash at some times, the drums really drove home like that punch.
Yeah.
That thrash has.
And the Altruist, I mean, it kind of comes in very, like, I would say, Vader at their thrashiest or Sepultura at their most death metal-ish. So kind of those interesting little moments, like those intersecting bits. And it's a blend. It's death thrash, and it should do that, blend both styles and find this nice homogenized sound in between. And it does still do that on this.
Okay, so I'll just say it. So, like, first of all, in this album, there's a lot of compression.
There is.
There's a lot of compression on those guitars, and you don't really hear the bass a whole lot either, except in Who Bleeds Whom. Because the first couple tracks I remember saying, like, I don't really hear the bass. Well, you get this little bass solo opener, and then you get a bass solo towards the
bass solo is nice.
Yeah, dude. It reminds me a lot of Evan Brewer when he played for the Faceless, or even his solo work. But that's, like, the guy's good.
Yeah, and it's very nuanced. There's a lot of melody to it. And, I mean, if we're going to talk about solos across the board on this album, the lead work
is spectacular.
Awesome. I think it's trade-offs between the two of them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if it's just one of them, they're doing a brilliant job. It's melodic, it's shreddy, it's a nice balanced sound. The lead tone sounds great.
Yeah, dude, the lead tone is sick.
Yeah.
I get reminded of, like, Necrophagist leads at times, like, because it's really noodly, but super, super melodic.
And in terms of cool bass moments, once again, the second track, Transparent, has a bridge with just kind of an out-of-nowhere funky bass line. Like, he kind of channels Flea for a second.
Yeah, dude. And it's not real long. It's just out of nowhere, and you're like, all right,
dude,
okay.
All right. Yeah. Yep. You got me. And Transparent is one that actually has some more death metal moments but the death metal moments on here are kind of scattered. They're like little pockets of death metal. Outlast and the title track Cast the Die both have some really solid moments that just scream death metal. But it's more along the lines of like early death metal, like Death, Pestilence, Possessed. So you're not getting like, you know, like kind of a Morbid Angel vibe or anything like that, or like Cannibal Corpse. Occasionally you get some chunkier riffs
I don't know,
in there.
in Outlast, that right after the groove, there's this one part that I guess could be, not like a breakdown, but he just, in this, I think it's like the pre-chorus or something, it's just this really like, dun, 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 dun. It reminds me of Suffocation.
Yeah, I mean, the palm muted, just beat down riff. Those are there, but most of this album is thrash, or most of it is like full tilt boogie, fast thrash, nice groovy bridges, but for the most part, we're flying all over this album.
They're not real long songs either. I think the longest song is like 4 minutes and some change. But yeah, they're mostly just barn burners.
And in terms of like atmosphere and like any sort of like extra stuff on there to sort of build the feel, there really isn't much. This is almost always straight to the point, like right away. Like maybe you get like a turnover or just like an isolated riff, and then, you know, that you get a little bit on Who Bleeds Whom in terms of a really cool bass opening, which I thought was very pretty. And once again, bass work was fantastic when you could hear it in the mix. But the rest of the time, you are just getting just hit right away, punched in the face repeatedly.
Yep. And the riffs, again, are very creative. In the song Embellishment Exposed, there's a riff in the bridge that's, I can't, it sounds like old like Atari video game sounds, like what was it, pole position?
Pole position, maybe?
Yeah, maybe like that, but they're just like real quick, just like bleep, 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 bleep.
And I thought that was really interesting about this song, because most of the time when it came to the nuance and the more like, you know, creative aspects, I think it was a lot on the leads. The leads really got creative in terms of like the phrasing. And this song, the riff on it is just wild and interesting, and it comes out of nowhere. Like we literally did like kind of a double take.
Yeah, both of us were like, hold up.
You heard that, right?
Yeah.
And then it did it again. I was like, that's really kind of cool. I don't know if it's like a scraping thing they're doing or like a
I don't know what he's doing. Maybe that, or like maybe just quickly running his finger up and down the string on the fretboard. I don't know. I'm not a guitar player.
Neither am I.
Shred would probably be able to tell us, but he's playing video games.
Yeah, probably playing video games. But either way, it was cool, it was effective, and it was fun. Like, it instantly got my attention, and, I mean, the song was already, like, a banger. You know, this had, like, a really cool groovy moment that we were getting stuck in, namely with that riff. And just that little bit of extra spice on there was a lot of fun. And Cast the Die started off very interestingly, too. The opening sounds almost like a nod to Practice What You Preach. And, I mean, if it is, I get it. That's a banger of a song.
Right.
But that one also, again, it kind of had this cool mix of thrash riffs and death metal sections. This one actually, again, was one that brought up the death metal side of them. And it definitely screamed, like, Possessed in there. And, you know, that was just kind of the issue in here. And we were talking about it as we were listening to this. This was definitely more of a thrash release, though I'd still say there's a lot of death metal moments on here. It is primarily thrash, like I would say 70-30.
Yeah.
And going into this, I was thinking about their debut album, which I absolutely love that one, and that is a great example of how to mix those two genres. That is a great death thrash release. This, if it was maybe like a new band that was, you know, just advertised as a thrash band, and then you were listening to this and you heard all these cool, like, death metal moments peppered in, and was like, ooh, that's a cool nod to something a little bit different, I think I might have greeted it a little bit differently.
I think part of it too, again, the rhythm guitars are really compressed.
Yes.
And it takes away from the overall sound. Like, the guitars are just kind of thin.
They are.
They're just kind of there. Like in the song Scratch, the breakdown in Scratch is heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy. Palm muted chugs, actually probably one of the heavier moments, if not the heaviest moment in the album. You know, that's a good idea of a chunkier guitar tone, because it is. It's chunkier during that part. I don't know why.
It sounds heftier.
But, like, I think that's part of it, too. I think the reason that it sounds so thrashy and less heavy from a death metal perspective is just the tone of that guitar. I think if they could have beefed that up a little bit, I think it would have brought out more of what they were trying to do.
Yeah, that is probably the one thing that really hampers this in terms of an album, is the mix does not lend itself well to the death metal aspects. In fact, like when they're not doing palm muted chugs, it does sound kind of thin. It doesn't really fill out the sound and give it like that sort of death metal heft that it really needs.
Yep.
And that definitely hurts it. But I mean, when it comes down to the overall energy in the album, it's always present.
There.
So it's almost a matter of just remixing it. It's fun, it's thrashy, it's fast, aggressive, but it could definitely use a better mix job. And as far as like songwriting, most of this is really tight. The only part I really didn't like, but it was still greeted with something that I did like, was the breakdown on Eyes Sewn Shut, which I had actually heard before, which was on the Syst split they did. And the breakdown is just kind of there. It's just kind of a simple strummed riff, but you have this gorgeous lead on top of it, so you can almost kind of ignore the bridge part, or the back behind this lead is just kind of dull, really.
Kind of lazy, actually. And I don't know if that's a good word, but like there's not a lot going on because the focal point's the lead.
Yeah.
Great. They're great leads. I can't express that enough.
Yeah.
Lead work in this album is tits on a boar.
There wasn't a single lead I didn't like.
Yeah, it just seems kind of like it's there just to be there.
It's not like a good supporting cast member. Like it's there to supply a rhythm. And it does that, but it doesn't seem to come to life again until after the lead's over. And I mean, I don't know. Again, it just didn't help out that moment. But as far as like songwriting stuff, like that was the only moment that really stood out as just like but it did kind of hurt that song because again that lead was gorgeous. But overall, I'm gonna give this 3 stars. I enjoyed it. It is hampered by a questionable mix. Mostly it just comes down to the guitars. Like everything else sounds pretty good, but those guitars sounded super thin, and this is a band that needs a good punchy guitar. And, it doesn't lend itself very well to the death metal aspects when they are very present on here. I also would have liked more death metal, just more like a balance, because, again, this is a death thrash band. This is one of the bands that I associate with that fusion. And I got a thrash metal album with some death metal elements. Again, I'm not super disappointed with that. I just would have liked more of a balance. But this is a good album. I mean, if you've missed Solstice for the last 12 years in between releases, then you should definitely get this one. I'm still going to get it because I still enjoyed it, and welcome back, Solstice. Pretty solid job.
I'm going to give it 3 stars as well. They're good songs. I like them. I like their riff work. It would have been cooler if the mix hadn't been so poor. And I guess I don't want to say poor. It wasn't a poor mix. It just made it sound more like a hardcore album written in like 2005, 2006. It was missing the heft of both thrash and death metal, but they were good songs. And that lead work is just tits. It's really, really good. If I could tweak that mix a little bit more, it'd be pretty good. The songs are pretty straightforward for the most part. Meat and potatoes. I would like to have seen them add some more dynamic in the sense of like not always be full tilt boogie. Like they would get into these heavy breakdowns and I'd be like, okay, this would be a good time to, dry hump this riff or to set up a different kind of mode, but they just kept it balls to the wall, which isn't a bad thing. Just with a death thrash album, you would want to see elements of death and thrash and all the things that make that wonderful.
Yeah. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon right now. Yep, we have some fun stuff that we're going to be putting up there, and of course, just random weird stuff that we want to put up there. But if you would like to join that, there will be a link below in the description. Also, we have a giveaway going on. Once we hit 6,000 subs, we're going to give away a 4-CD package. There will also be a link to that in the description, and honestly, if you just go to our channel, you will see that playing pretty much automatically, because I think I set that up right.
Yes, I went to it today.
Okay, cool. Winning.
Yep, we're right, winning. And again, we're almost at 6,000 subs.
Remarkable.
Holy crap.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to do this. This gets cooler and cooler, I swear, every day.
It does.
I can't wait to see what comes next. And, you guys are so apt to comment and reach out. It's like we're building a heavy metal family. The Thralls empire is coming alive. Thank you.
Either we adopted you or you adopted us. Either way, welcome.
Yeah.
It's fun. So with that, we thank you very much, and we will catch you later.